There's a new video going around of Alex Pretti.
Showing a man who appears to be Alex Pretti interacting with federal immigration agents 11 days before Border Patrol shot and killed him. Our footage was analyzed by the BBC, whose facial recognition technology confirmed his identity to a 97% degree of accuracy. On the morning of January 13th, our team received a tip that federal agents were blocking a street at the corner of East 36 and Park Avenue in Minneapolis. We arrived around 10:15 a.m.
So this is the video that's going
That
around
doesn't
right
seem
now.
very peaceful to me.
That's not super peaceful.
That's not the same day.
No, it's not.
Okay,
That's
just
what
want to clarify.
A lot of people are saying, like, yeah, see, that they're acting like it justifies everything, and it doesn't. These are different days. And my biggest question is, why wasn't this guy in jail? I would like to know personally. How do you kick out the taillight of a government vehicle that's got a bunch of government officers in it and then not go to jail that day and not be in jail a week later or 2 weeks later? Because I want to know, I need the tips.
He should have been in jail for assault, for sure.
Yeah. Like what Magoo said in the live group, they've got to be careful doing this, and you do have to take this under consideration every time you see these officers interacting with people. They're dealing with a situation where if they stop to do something, they could get like swarmed by a bunch of people, and a bunch of people can overtake even a couple guys that got their guns and their gear. In fact, like 6 of the guys, couldn't get one of them on the ground. So like a bunch of people swarm you while you're trying to arrest someone. They don't have help.
It didn't look like this one guy could get him on the ground either.
Yeah, they don't have help from local PD. There's talks that's changing. We don't really know yet. There's talks of that changing. But this, to me, doesn't change anything. The only thing it would change, which we know is not the case, but the only reason it would change something is if this guy was known to these officers as a guy that was carrying a gun, which, by the way...
hang on. I think it's more than that, though. What was his behavior like 5 minutes before the recording started on the day that he died?
That probably wasn't good.
Was it this similar behavior?
It probably resembled that.
Okay.
But I don't know that. I think we can guess that it probably resembled that.
We don't know that. But if this is consistent with his behavior at these types of protests, one could argue that his behavior leading up to the actions that ultimately got him tackled and shot might have been similar behavior. It doesn't... See, this is
which is still not a death sentence, by the way.
It's not a death sentence. I'm not saying you can shoot him in the back. But what I am saying is that then this is what I was telling my friend, like, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. You do not have a right. There's nowhere in the Constitution that gives you the right at a protest to walk in the middle of the street and kick a federal official's car, and then when he hops out, spit in his face and assault him. That's not protesting. It's called assault.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
As we discussed.
Now, you should be arrested for that. This doesn't merit a sentencing and execution in the street. Of course not. But this isn't this whole idea. This is what the left loves to do, which is why I think, to my point yesterday, whatever level there is below no respect, like that's what I have for them. I don't know what that is. Maybe we can invent a new word. Like when you have no respect for someone, but then it's worse than that.
Like worse than like disdain or whatever, like
just worse.
Like worse than that.
Yeah, and this is what the left. This is why I think, to your point, maybe a couple weeks ago when you said, like, yeah, this is why I voted for Trump. I can't stand these kinds of people. Sure, they may have some points that they get right when it comes to protesting ICE, but then they want to perpetrate some of these interactions, and then when it doesn't go their way, they cry victim. And there's nothing worse than that. You're a despicable human being for doing those types of things. I stand behind your right to protest and go on a sidewalk and hold up signs, blow whistles if you want to, even though it's annoying. And
I'm still not sure on the whistles.
Yell profanities at them if you want to, from a safe distance. You can't get in their face and do it.
Well,
you can't kick them or spit on them or hit their vehicles, throw rocks at their windshield. I've seen all kinds of crazy stuff. That's not protesting. That's rioting, and it's assault, and it's illegal, and it's wrong.
I do still want to say, like what we talked about yesterday, there is a difference between protesting and impeding or doing acts of actual resistance against the government. And it's fine to do that. You're never going to get a government protected right to do a resistance against the government. Like, you're going to get hopefully a government protected right to protest, to make your voice heard. You're going to get that. But none of us should ever expect to have a government and then also that government protect your right to stop what that government says it wants to do physically. That's just not going to happen. Now, you can do that if you want to, but don't go, try to be a hero and then say, well, they shouldn't have responded. That's not what people should ever expect. You want to go do those acts of heroism and fight against the state? Hey, okay.
Be a firefly.
Yeah, but I'm not going to say you should get the same, protections as you should get for speech. You're certainly not going to get that protection from the government. And by the way, if that government is protecting your right to resist and stop them, then they're not tyrannical. It's like a self-defeating thing, you know? Like if they're going to protect your right to stop them from doing things, to physically prevent them, then you're not protesting a tyrannical government. That's actually a pretty cool government,
It's also these same people who protest in the middle of churches and then they become the victim. And this is just their MO. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think I'm tired of seeing. And I think two things can be true. The government should come out and say, hey, we made a mistake. Somebody yelled gun. Our officer shot and killed him. We wish that wasn't the situation. That was a mistake. However, he's not going to be held legally liable because it was a bang-bang situation and people yelled gun, whatever. And then the left should come out and say, hey, guys, let's peacefully protest and not instigate an altercation with people who have firearms.
Yeah.
This is so dumb to me. It's like, Nate, I got a really cool game.
Well, they are pretty dumb.
Nate, I got a really cool game, bro. Let's go to the local gun range and we'll run back and forth behind the targets.
Yeah.
Until one of us dies. Well, then that's who wins the game.
And they shoot you, just say you're a victim.
Exactly. If you get shot, then you're a victim of the gun range.
All right. So back to this video that we're going through here. You can see his jacket gets pulled off and you can see that he has a gun. And the point I was making earlier, the only way that they could say, well, this affected the way that we treated him the next time is if they were like, this is a known guy. We know he's carrying a gun. We know he kicked out a tail light and was spitting at people 11 days prior. And so he's on our list. We know who he is. We know he's carrying. And they might very well come out and say that. But the reason I don't think that's the case is because they didn't come out and say that immediately afterwards. Like if that was part of any of their decision-making process at all, then when they were out there calling him a domestic terrorist and why does he have 2 magazines and why is he doing this and that, they would have said, oh, and also we just had an altercation with him 11 days ago and he kicked out a taillight and he was spitting at our officers and his jacket got pulled off and we saw that he was carrying a gun and so we knew that the guy was potentially extra dangerous. They never said any of that over the last few days. That all. Meaning that's not, it doesn't have anything to do with it.
I don't think they knew.
And so that's my point. As people are saying, well, this changes everything. It really doesn't. Like we already knew the guy was not adhering to what like the rules of legal observation would be. You're not doing that when you're impeding, when you're getting in the way. You can stand on a public sidewalk and film what officers are doing. But you can't get in their way and put a stand in front of the vehicle and put a camera in front of them and say you're legally observing. That's not what that is. So we already know that he's not adhering to the rules of being a legal observer at all. So nothing really has changed in my opinion. And nothing changes about the fact that he was disarmed and then he was killed. And regardless whether you say, well, the officer didn't know it was a tough situation. There's a lot of stuff going on, a few seconds, bang, bang. That can be all true. You still say, well, it's not our official policy that like we get you on the ground and we disarm you and then we kill you. That wasn't supposed to happen. An ICE agent or an agent, I don't know if it was CBP or who it was, disarmed him and then another agent killed him. That is not supposed to happen. Everyone has to agree that is not supposed to happen. Police officers of the law, any of them, that's not supposed to happen at all. You don't disarm a guy and then kill him.
Right.
It's just not the way that you do it. That's the video going around. And by the way, there is a large movement right now of people online, and this is going to increasingly be a problem. There is a large movement of people who believe that this is a deepfake AI video. I'm like, I get it. It is you got to be super careful about the stuff that you see online. I will, however, say, according to the BBC, this guy's family or representatives for the family has confirmed that that is Alex Pretti in the video, and that this happened. So it seems like it's not AI, but in today's, like, this is going to keep being a problem.
I love how
like it's just going to keep being a problem, man.
That's their immediate go-to, though. That this is just a deep fake.
Mm-hmm.
You know, rather than take accountability. Oh, this is just a deep fake. Because, by the way, it hurts Pretti's credibility. That's why.
Yeah.
And that's what matters in public opinion. It's credibility. His persona as a hero ICU nurse, which I'm sure he did great work. That, you know, a lot of nurses do great work, sure. But his persona as like that's who he is shot with this video coming out, that you could see that his behavior, his erratic behavior, mimics something the left hates. Looks like toxic masculinity.
No, they like that kind of erratic behavior though, because it's against the oppressor in favor of the victim class, and so that's fine. Now, okay, to some policy stuff. This is a couple days old now, but the White House put out this list of requests or demands for Governor Walz of Minnesota. And I thought it was fairly reasonable, and it is an avenue for preventing some of these things from happening. And so number one, turn over all incarcerated or active warrant criminal illegal aliens for immediate deportation. I feel like that's fair. You've incarcerated people, they're illegal immigrants by law, they're not supposed to be here, and instead, like the taxpayers of Minnesota, or if they're in a federal prison, or whoever the taxpayers are paying to feed and house this person, and our laws say they need to go home.
Who do they want to turn over? The state? The states?
Yeah, they're not turning over, like if they arrest someone for a crime or whatever, they're not letting ICE know that they've arrested an illegal immigrant. They let them go eventually. Like, they don't tell
only some states, though.
The sanctuary states.
Okay.
Yeah. And sanctuary cities and counties and things like that. Minnesota's one of them. California is one of them. And Illinois, certain, like Chicago, New York is like this as well. And so, yeah, if you arrest someone or imprison someone and they're an illegal immigrant, you should let ICE know. And why don't we just deport that person instead of keeping them in jail? Like, that's... let's send them back. I think that's fine. Transfer all criminal illegal.
Tough because this goes against states' rights, and then you have to try to figure out what the balance is here.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to the supremacy, the supremacy clause and all that, it has to do with whether or not they're constitutional laws, federal laws that the states are supposed to be following, and this Title VIII was created in 1952. This has been checked several times. The federal government seems to have the right to set the rules and laws and regulations for naturalization. And if you don't adhere to those, the penalties and enforcement for not doing that, it seems like the federal government probably was given the ability to do that kind of thing in the Constitution. So I think that's an important part. Like, I don't like saying, well, you shouldn't be a sanctuary state, because I like to live in a Second Amendment sanctuary state. I think that's fine. But then I feel like those laws, if they were to have federal laws, should be determined to not be constitutional, not pursuant to the Constitution. And therefore, James Madison would say that's fine, from the grave.
That's the distinction you have to draw.
Yeah.
The Constitution is clear that the Constitution and United States law are supreme law of the land, but the United States law part has a very particular word in front of it or after it that says made in pursuance thereof, meaning any United States code has to be made in pursuance of the Constitution, in pursuance of the enumerated powers of the federal government that was laid out in the Constitution. Immigration and naturalization does fall under Congress's authority. It's in Article 1.
18.
Article 1, I believe.
4. Yeah, see, you're gonna
See,
start. You got to have the number before
I
you
have
say
to have it
you know?
right away.
You got to know it
Yeah.
right then, or yeah. Okay, the next thing: transfer all criminal illegal aliens arrested by state and local police. Okay, we kind of talked about that one. Number 3: assist federal authorities in detaining criminal illegal aliens wanted for crimes. Now, that's one. I don't think you should have to do that. I think it's great to ask them to do that, and I guess he's not saying you have to.
I was right. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4.
Section 8, Clause 4. There we go. Number 4, Democrats must work with the federal government in the rapid removal of all criminal illegal aliens. The main thing, we're going to talk about this, and I've heard some rumblings that they're potentially shifting back towards this, which is emphasis on criminal. And I mean criminal, like violent criminals, like they have violated the rights of other people specifically, that they violated the NAP, as libertarians would like to say. And I do think that that is something they need to focus on. We spoke about this yesterday too. You're not going to get the big numbers by focusing on that. You will get what I think are the most important people though. Like if you want to focus on what would be best, like if you're trying to help the American people or whatever, number 1, starting by focusing on murderers and rapists and kidnap. God, I was pulling up some of the numbers earlier, and you guys are probably seeing these numbers. They were talked about a lot during the election, but seems to be fairly 126,000 like known criminals, 13,000 of them homicide, 62,000 assault, 14,000 sexual assault, 3,000 kidnapping, 2,000 robbery, and many other like violent crimes. And I think
seems like those would be the easy ones to round
they're
up.
not. Those are the ones that like you can't find. They're on the run. So like those are tougher to find, but they're the most important. Okay, so now we're going to play this video that has got some people upset from Rand Paul.
I'm a moderate on this. I actually think that most of the people that are here and working lawfully and can pass a background check, I would give them no welfare, and I'd give them no citizenship, no voting privileges, but you can work and we won't arrest you.
Okay. No citizenship, but a potential path to citizenship?
I think it's better just to say the trade-off is this, that you came illegally. Right now the law says you got to go back and you'll never get in, basically. So the compromise is you came in illegally, you just don't get to be a citizen, your kids will be. Now the new ones, the 8 million that might have come in last year, some of them need to go back, and particularly any of them committing crimes. The compromise I'm offering is different than anybody's ever talked about. Everybody thinks the compromise has to include voting and citizenship. If in Texas we gave amnesty and let, I don't know, a couple million people vote, immediately Texas becomes Democrat for the next 20 years. So that's what it's all about. It's about voting. I think some of the best Americans just got here, frankly. They have good work ethic. They're hardworking people. They work in our fields. They pick our tomatoes. They clean fish. They work in chicken houses. They do a lot of the dirty jobs in our country are done by immigrants. So
they also came here with ambition because they want a better life at great peril, and great risk.
And some of them are here illegally. I would have a work program. I'd let them sign up for a work program, pass a background check.
But do you think that they should have to go back home in order to become a citizen? Like if you could show, like if some guy came over here 20 years ago, started off as a laborer, now he's a carpenter, he's working for some construction company, but he's an illegal.
Right.
Like,
the trade is you don't get citizenship at all. Your kids will. I would just say you don't get citizenship. That's your trade-off. Here's an interesting survey. Let's find 1,000 people who are in Texas illegally and do a poll and say, would you accept this? Would you accept that you don't get to vote during your lifetime, but your kids will get to vote if they were born here in exchange for not having to worry about being in a car accident or being sent back to Mexico? I'll bet you 80% of the people here illegally would take work without citizenship. But you know who wants the citizenship and doesn't care about work? Democrats. All they care about is the voting part.
Charlie, your thoughts?
I like the compromise. I don't think that we can... And he said some of these people need to go back, the criminals, of course. It's because I don't think we're going to accomplish finding every single illegal person and being able to deport them. I don't think that's an insurmountable problem and task. It's impossible. There's no way to do it, especially when you have state governments that are willing to block the federal government. The federal government doesn't have enough resources. I don't care if you give them $1 trillion. It wouldn't matter, okay? Unless you create, I don't know, one ICE agent for every 10 citizens in every single county. Okay, maybe that way you could do it. I don't know. I think that would cost more than $1 trillion, though.
That would be a lot.
Yeah. So the problem is, and then, okay, so what are our options? If we can't solve the problem that way, what are the options? Okay, go after and deport the criminals and then offer them a path to stay here that benefits America the most. And they have no benefits. If they're not a citizen, they can't qualify for welfare. They can't vote. They should not be counted in the census. That's another caveat to this that Rand Paul should include. Should not be counted in the census so that you can't get more congressional seats because you're not representing people that have any sort of voting power inside of your district. So that can be changed. And you make a compromise to say and give these people the option. I think you'll find out where a lot more of the legals are because they'll sign up for a program like this. I agree. I think probably 80% at least would do something like this, especially if their kids get a better future and their kids can be citizens. That's what they want. They came here for a better life for their family. They care about the future of their children. You wouldn't meet. I have yet to meet, and I've met several in the restaurant industry that were here illegally that don't absolutely just adore their family. That's what they're here for. These guys that I've worked with, they're at the restaurant at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning prepping. They cook all day long. They leave somewhere around 3, 4, or 5 o'clock, and then they go to their bricklaying job or their construction job or whatever. These people work like 16-hour days plus, all in an effort to support their family because they want a better life for their kids. I think the majority would sign up for a plan like that. I think we need to add the census part in there, and then it becomes a more solid plan.
There's a few things in here I would add. So number one thing you have to do is you would have to stop the flow because you have to consider that any kind of plan like this would incentivize people to come here still. And maybe
I think
that's
we've already
an issue.
done that, though. We've stopped the flow, but you're saying codify it. Codify in law stopping the flow.
We've stopped that. Well, we haven't fully stopped the flow because there's still like hundreds of thousands of people that they're arresting across the border and then deporting afterwards. And so half the deportation numbers are people that got across the border, they arrested, sent to an ICE facility, and then deported afterwards. And so all that has to happen is a new president comes in and decides not to enforce that anymore. And so I don't know if there needs to be a constitutional amendment or what it needs to be, if they got to revisit the laws on this or whatever. But before doing that, I think you would have to codify stopping that flow. And I'm not going to be able to tell you exactly how they're going to do that, but I think they would have to. The other thing you would have to make sure of is the states have to go along with it. This is why another reason it would have to almost be a constitutional amendment. Like the states have to go along with that. Because we have our federal laws right now, and we're still talking about how the states are giving people welfare or the states are not checking ID and somehow letting people vote or whatever. And so you'd have to have some kind of new law or amendment or whatever that would stop the states from getting around that system. Because when people hear that, the reason people are getting so upset is because what they hear is this amnesty and path to citizenship kind of thing. But you've got to shut off those two things first. I'm fine. We've talked about this plenty of times. I'm fine with people eventually becoming citizens. I think there's a very small percentage of these people that you wouldn't want to have in your country, especially the actual murderers and rapists and stuff. Like, that's one of the reasons you want to have good border enforcement. Why have we let in over 100,000 people who we believe are guilty of violent crimes, and they're just here amongst us? Like, that's ridiculous. That's totally ridiculous to allow that to happen. And so there needs to be a way to make sure that never happens again. I'm fine with eventual citizenship, and I think that the issue there would have to be, it would need to be after some time, like Rand Paul plan plus like a 10-year, call it probation, where if you screw up or something, you rob someone.
That's just more administrative costs.
No, it's a lot of administrative costs, but it's not as much as we're about to spend right now.
Well, I'm saying Rand Paul's plan doesn't add those administrative burdens.
I know. Yeah.
I don't think
the
because
plus side.
here's the trade-off. You came in illegally. So now you're accepting, okay, I was illegal, so I give up my right to pursue citizenship.
I get that. And I think what Rogan
That's a
was
fair
asking,
trade-off.
And I can be swayed either way on this. As I've said many times, I just don't care that much about this. It's just a big thing that everyone is talking about now, so we have to talk about it. And by the way, I kind of sorted out why I don't care as much when I see all this immigration stuff. Like, as a libertarian, I feel like I should be more upset about what ICE is doing. Like, I know that, but I'm not. And I think I know why. I thought through it a lot over the weekend as I was sitting there doing nothing, thinking about ICE in Nashville. It's because these people, they opted in. We didn't opt into this. We're born here. Our parents are born here. Generations here. I didn't sign the Constitution. I got nothing to do with that law and with the creation of the Federal Reserve or the income tax or the creation of these different federal agencies and all that. I didn't opt into that. But when you make the choice to come here, you are opting into the system, and part of the system says that it's illegal for you to be here, and we can round you up and ship you back to your country, or we can put you in prison, or we can do whatever. It's here. When you voluntarily come across that border, you're opting into that system. We didn't opt into it. We got born here. You opt into a state, like if I go move to California, I've opted into the shit show in California. I'm not going to go there and be like, well, this is ridiculous. I can't believe they're doing this. I knew that before I went there.
The only thing is their in and out lines are much shorter out in California than they are here in Nashville.
Yeah, that's true. Got to take that under consideration.
That's
for sure.
Just saying that's
the only good part.
The only benefit.
In the ocean, I guess. But you know what? I think that's why I don't get so upset about it. Because I'm like, they did make a choice. They had a choice. And they moved to a place that said, we will do this to you. This will happen. And you decided that was worth it because of the situation you were coming from. And so while I don't like abuses by ICE, I also care less about it than I would most other things that the federal government does. I don't remember where.
Oh, so you would have been on Hitler's side.
I don't know about that situation.
Just an ordinary man, just with your silence.
Yeah. Is that violence?
Your passivity.
Yeah.
You're just not caring about what happens to these human beings, Nate.
So he says,
how dare thee?
He says your kids will be citizens. So then we're sticking with that, I guess. I think that's probably got a lot of people upset. And so then there's still that incentive. And another reason you have to make sure that you codify stopping the flow of people, because that is, people will do great things for their kids. I think the census thing is important as well, like you said. I think it's ridiculous that we have people who aren't citizens who can't vote that are counted for apportionment for our congressional districts and our electoral votes. That makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
At all. I don't understand how anyone makes an argument for why you should do that. Other than you want those people to give you more votes. Even if those people aren't voting, like they're not going to a booth or they're not filling out the ballot and mailing it in or whatever, just the fact that you're giving like California and Illinois and New York and Minnesota probably
extra congressional
seats, which give them more weight in presidential elections and votes in Congress, which used to be important, not as important anymore. That's a big one. And they should talk a lot about fixing the census. I think one of the reasons they're focusing so much on the blue states is because there's so many illegal immigrants there that are being counted in the population. And we know that those states have way more congressional seats than they should. That this makes no sense to me. Yeah. With why they would count those in apportionment.
And something Amy said in the group too, in our Fed Haters Club, which you can go join by going to joingml.com, is the main issue being welfare. We've talked about this several times. I think that's something that Rand Paul's plan points out, is that if you're not a citizen, you don't qualify for welfare. You can't vote. Like, you have all these things that you're not legally allowed to do because you're not a citizen. And so that's the important part of this, is that, and this is something I've mentioned several times, but this is what Milton Friedman talked about a bunch in the 80s. And a lot of these folks to Amy's point in the group here is that they don't want the welfare necessarily. Now, I think you're skewing the amount of people who do want the welfare by allowing them to get it. So you're getting people coming across the border who are looking for free handouts. But the whole idea of immigration for the long-standing history of the United States of America was that there was no welfare. There wasn't a free check when you crossed the border. What there was here and what there is here still, it's still the best country in the world for this, is opportunity. The opportunity to freely express yourself, put your ideas into motion, work hard, and make a substantial better living, and have the capability to live the most abundant human life that human life has ever experienced in its entire history of existence. Mm-hmm. That's what America is. It's opportunity. And we could... The obvious answer is to dismantle the whole entire welfare system, of course, but that's another problem in and of itself.
Yeah, as libertarians, I feel the need to disclaimer all the time, like, oh, hey, by the way, I don't think any of this stuff should exist. And if you get rid of the welfare state, then basically none of this matters, just so everyone knows. But we do have to talk in the in the realm of reality and things that are actually going to happen in these elections. And you also have to speak to people sort of where they are, if you ever want them to be receptive to any of your other ideas, and sort of lead them along a little bit. And so allow us to lead you along for a little bit longer. So the next thing I want to talk about, because if you're on the right and you're listening to this, you're like, no, we just got to get rid of all of them. We just got to deport everyone. Why are you being such a P word? We just got to get rid of these people. And as we mentioned yesterday, it's not going to happen. Even if you want it to happen, even if I fully want it to happen, and I don't care. If you want to tell me it's going to happen, I'm like, okay. And if you want to tell me it's not, I'm like, all right, that's fine. I think we got enough problems with people who were born here that I don't think getting rid of all the people who weren't born here is going to solve a bunch of the issues in America. But whatever, if you want to do it, then do it. It's not going to bother me all that much. There's not been that many deportations. Not real deportations. You know, when we talk...
Depending on the definition of deportation.
Well, so this reminds me of when we talk about mass shootings. Because the mass shootings that people care about, by rule, are the ones that make it on the news. That's your definition. Because there is a lot of what qualifies technically as a mass shooting. You're never going to see it on the news.
Well, based on arbitrary metrics that someone decided.
And so there's a large amount of mass shootings because of whatever thing they decided, like 4 or more people shot or killed.
Which is interesting, by the way, because mass is like it's big.
Yeah.
When we talk about mass.
It's like mass relative to the amount of people that regularly get killed in a shooting. And so 4 or more people is the typical definition. But that's not what people care about. What they care about are schools, places of work, the grocery store, churches, parades, things like that. Those things hardly ever happen, but they'll still use the big number. Now, back to deportations.
Most of the big number comes from Chicago.
Yeah.
Over the weekend.
Back to deportations. When MAGA people are thinking about deportations, they're thinking about really what's going on in Minnesota. They want to see people getting pulled out of their house or place of work or whatever. They probably prefer it be less violent or whatever, but don't really care. And they want to get that person who's living on that block that's not supposed to be here. They finally get arrested and they get sent back home. And I'm sorry to tell you, like that's a small amount of the deportations. There still haven't been a lot of those under the Trump administration. But we spent about $12 billion on ICE last year, and they apportioned a new like $80 billion, $86 billion, whatever the number was for ICE in the big, beautiful bill that they can use over 4 years. And they don't have to use it equally per year. They only used a couple billion of it last year, which means they've got like $26 billion extra to use next fiscal year or this fiscal year, even if they don't get this DHS funding bill through that's got funding for ICE in it, which is another $10 billion on top of that, the extra amount that they put into one big, beautiful bill. And they're still not getting more than like 300,000 people arrested like what you guys are thinking of. It's still not happening. And our big issue here is that we are spending somewhere between $15,000 and $40,000 per person that ICE is able to find and arrest in these communities. You're spending that. The American taxpayers are spending that. And that there is a system like through the CBP Home app where they are paying, I think the number is $2,600 now. They'll offer you a voluntary deportation to go home. You can do that and you can go home. And I think you'll be eligible to come back someday if you do the voluntary deportation. I don't know, Charlie looked up some of the stuff, but he's not here right now.
No, I'm doing math on your numbers.
How bad is that?
Well, if you take the low end, 15,000 times 8 million, let's say 8 million is the number that they're looking to get rid of.
Oh, no, they want 20 million. You got to do anything.
Okay,
it's got to be 20 million. If you do less than 20 million, you might as well be a communist, Charlie. You are a left-wing, blue-haired agitator if you want to do less than 20 million. So don't put a number less than 20 million in there.
Okay. That's $300 billion on the low end and about $1 trillion on the high end.
Yeah.
So you're looking at, we'll go in the middle. You need $600 billion to deport 20 million people.
Okay. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. And what, about 30 years? So we got a bunch of people working on it right now. We did, 230,000 people arrested inside the country in 2025. Now, if you let's say you can get that to 400,000, and that's a lot more presence than what we're seeing right now. And remember, they still don't want to go to the factories or to the farms or to the hotels or to the restaurants because businesses get mad about that. So you still got to find people that are not in one big location. And so you get a 400,000. Let's just split it even every 3 years at that. The arrested inside the country number, you're able to get like 1 million people every 3 years. That's a lot of years that it would take to get rid of
60.
those people.
That's 60 years.
How many different administrations are you going to have? How many different Congresses are you going to have over that time? Even if my numbers are ridiculous, because some of them come from the New York Times and PolitiFact and DHS's website, and let's just say those numbers are ridiculous, and it's going to be 1 million people a year.
By the way, Magoo is telling us in the live chat right now that according to his stepdad, who was a Border Patrol agent in the 80s, that he would arrest the same people multiple times in a year. They all get counted. So if you send someone back 9 times, that's 9 deportations.
Well, that is a deportation.
Even though it was the same person.
But so the thing you have
Well, you got to multiply the number now, though.
No, it's more.
We got to extrapolate this out to how many people are going to try more than once.
So you have to.
Each year, by the way.
You have to remember that this is a government agency, and their incentive is to justify their existence and to justify their budget. And so most of the time, they will inflate the number for their results, and they'll deflate the cost projections for things. And so, yes, you run into instances like each time this person gets deported. Now, that is an action. It took money to do that. And once again, the problem is that people can just come right back over here. And that if you're going to do anything, if you're going to spend $1 trillion doing this, for God's sake, make sure no one can ever come across the border again.
Oh, so just kill them.
It is a complete waste of all of our money.
Here's Nate's immigration policy. If we find you in the United States of America illegally, we will shoot you on sight. No questions asked.
Is that
if you're found? We'll make sure you won't cross that border again.
Is that Lindsey Graham, Nate? That's happening right there?
It's Redneck Nate.
Redneck Nate, okay.
Yeah.
I like that. So, yeah, they have an incentive to increase these numbers, and a large part of the number, which, by the way, they also say, well, 2.9 million people have self-deported. Guys, that number is from the population, like the census population survey, whatever they call it, and they're taking it. Imagine, let me ask you this, Charlie. You're an illegal immigrant living in California. The year is 2023. Are you likely to put Are you likely to answer the government survey saying that you live here and that you're undocumented?
In California?
Yeah.
Probably higher likelihood.
Percentage likelihood probably higher.
In California, yeah.
Okay, the year is 2025. Same person living there. Likelihood of you answering that survey, has it gone up or down?
Oh, probably down.
Considerably down? Like you're still going to answer it? Or you don't want to take the chance?
Probably not taking the chance.
Okay, guys, everyone who decided not to take the chance, they decided to extrapolate the data out and say that those people have left. So when they tell you
a perception is reality, Nate,
that those people have self-deported, it comes from a population survey. And since people didn't respond on the survey, or they didn't say that they were undocumented immigrants, they have extrapolated out that those people have self-deported. This is your government giving you numbers. It's always the government giving you numbers. I have no doubt that some of those people left. But the number who have taken up the CBP Home app on its $2,600 is 40,000. Now, I want to know those other 2.9 million people, why didn't they take them up? On at least you're going to leave, get the $2,600. Might as well do that. You know?
That's not a lot.
Guys, the number's fake. The number's fake as hell. I'm not saying people haven't left, but it's not that big. Okay. So then you actually have to look at the number of people who were arrested. And the people arrested inside the country is much larger than it has been since Obama. Obama was actually pretty strict on deportations. These are people arrested inside the country, which, like when we talk about mass shootings, arrested inside the country is what everyone is thinking of. Not, oh, there they just came over the fence right there. Grab that person up. All right, take them on a truck over there. A couple days later,
to alligator trash.
A couple days later, ICE sends them back over the border. That's not what they're talking about with deportation, but that gets counted. That's a deportation. Now, they can immediately stop you. I think they call it repatriation or something like that without the arrest. Like they can turn you away and make you go back. There's all sorts of... Now, these are expulsions like deportations of people arrested at the border. That number's gone down because there's way less people trying to get across the border right now because it ain't working. But there's a lot. There's still a lot of people. Deportations at the border is still over 250,000 for last year. That is not the number that people are thinking of. You guys are thinking of the other number, which is much lower, okay? Arrested inside the country by ICE, 230,000. Arrested by CBP at the border, 150,000. Deported or denied entry at the border, 120,000. Self-deportations, 40,000. Officially, that used the CBP Home app. Crew on ships not allowed to disembark, 70,000 is counted in this number. I don't even want to guess at what that is, but that's probably, was that cruise ships that they're not letting people?
It says crew on ships.
Crew on ships.
So
I don't even want to.
Yeah, shipping containers, things like that.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to disembark.
And so that gets counted. Like they're still working on the ship and all that, but since they didn't let that person come off the boat to go to the gift shop, they want to count that as a deportation.
Yes.
Okay.
They came to America, Nate.
So in all actuality, they spent $12 billion last year and are planning on spending something like $40 billion this year. And $12 billion got you 230,000 of those nice arrests inside the country last year. They're not going to get that up. I don't think they get that number up over 500,000. I think it gets harder and harder for that to happen. The deportation of the 20 million people are talking about will never happen. You deciding that is your ultimate goal is no different from a libertarian deciding or an anarchist deciding that nothing short of anarchy could ever happen, or a commie deciding that nothing short of real Marxist communism could ever be the case. People on the right have to accept that 20 million people are not going to get deported. And if you don't focus on making sure that no one can come across the border illegal anymore, that's step number one. Number two, that states aren't giving welfare to people that are illegal immigrants and for sure as hell aren't voting. See, this focus on we're going to deport all of them stops you from focusing as hard on the other things that actually have to happen. And you'll never get the deportation number, but you spent all your time focusing on that and then trying to destroy anyone who said, well, maybe it should be 10 instead of 20. something like that. And then you never fix the other problems because you sold everyone on this thing that is impossible, this massive big goal that is impossible for you to ever do. And so focus on what is actually possible, which potentially could be 300,000 to 500,000 arrests in the country, which, by the way, as you get more of them, it's going to get harder. It's going to be less of them to try and get. And you don't want to go to businesses to do it. And so it's going to get harder and harder as time goes on. And you got a short amount of time to do it. Focus on what can actually be done. That's my biggest message for people. So all the people dragging Rand Paul, at least he's talking about something that's possible. Because you're talking about something that's not possible and getting mad at him for not going along with you. That doesn't make any sense.
It's a one track, no nuance allowed. And it's this, I don't know, it's almost like this anger people feel. They have to have something to blame, someone to blame for why our country is the way that it is. Why are things more expensive? Why is all this happening? I've seen so many posts of like, well, the illegals are taking all the housing. That's why there's a housing shortage. There's an illegal who are buying all the groceries. That's why the prices are going up. It's
well,
like,
there's a number it does affect a little bit.
Yes, true. But that's not the cause of all of the problems. And we need to focus on like to Nate's point, what can we solve that's going to alleviate all of these things that we're experiencing? And you have to attack those from different fronts. And I think, like, look, if you implement something like Rand Paul's plan where these people are not citizens and they can't vote and they don't have access to welfare, okay? If those people that are here just for the welfare and they're living on the government dole, they will leave. They will leave themselves because they're not getting what they came here for, okay? Or a byproduct of that is they're like, oh shit, I'm not getting free stuff anymore. I got to do something. And then they become the productive member of society that you want them to be because they're forced to do that.
And by the way, if they're productive and law abiding,
and I think, by the way,
what's your big issue?
The other thing too, I don't think we should shun away from the importance of the voting aspect of this. I mean, I think, to Rand Paul's point, to Elon Musk's point, to Republicans writ large point, that it is true. There was a coordinated effort to allow illegal immigrants into the country so that the voting populace of the Democrat, because the data proves that over 80% of illegals or immigrants will vote Democratic. There have been shifting economics in the voting populace over time as you see some of those populations start to assimilate in certain places. Like, by the way, California was a red state for a long time.
It wasn't that long ago they had a Republican governor.
Yeah.
I mean, it was Arnold Schwarzenegger, but
Texas is as red as they come, but we've had several races now that are pretty close.
Yeah.
Pretty neck and neck, It's like, and so my point to that is I don't think we should shy away from that being a major aspect. So I think that's why you can't offer these people any path to citizenship, because you can't guarantee that they wouldn't be unbiased in their voting principles. Now, interestingly enough, typically immigrants, especially from Mexico, a large part of them are Catholic. I mean, the majority of Mexicans are Catholic, and it's the number one religion there. And so their values as human beings, their family values, are conservative. However, the reason they vote Democrat is because they believe that the Democrats are the ones that are going to let them stay.
Yeah, if Republicans decided...
Flip the narrative.
I get the incentive and all that, but I do believe the case is if Republicans were like, okay, you guys can stay, we're not going to kick you out, we'll do Rand Paul's plan. I think a massive portion of those immigrants immediately become Republicans. Now, of course, under that plan, they can't vote, but I think that all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, it turns out they actually have really strong family values and they don't have to buddy up with the left so much because the left are the only people trying not to deport them.
If the Republicans would play the long game here, it doesn't matter. You're saying, okay, they don't have the right to vote because they came here illegally. All right. Which rids us of the problem of potential bias in the voting populace. But if Republicans were to play the long game here and they were nice to immigrants, guess what? Those parents who can't vote, guess who their children are going to vote for? Republicans.
Yeah,
and guess who their children are going to vote for? Republicans. You flip the whole thing on its head if you actually look at playing the long game in this type of situation, adopting Rand Paul's plans. I think we've added a few that should probably be added.
Yeah, I got a few more on the list. I'll send them over.
So send them over to Rand Paul's office. I think he'll adopt those.
I think something you said earlier just reminded me. This has become a scapegoat, and that really bothers me. And it's not that it's not a problem. It's not that it's zero of the problem. But back where I was saying that this is an impossibility to deport all of these people, but that is what so many people have been trained on, focusing on. Miraculously, I don't know if this was by design or if it's just one of these things that happens, like water seeking its own level or something like that, the way that this happens with the government. But they found a way to, instead of people being upset about the government being so big and having all these programs, that actually the problem is the immigrants. And if we just get rid of the immigrants, then we'll see. We'll talk about it after that. Now, keep in mind what I just told you is the government has gotten the MAGA people to decide that once we accomplish this impossible task, we will talk about whether or not the government is too big and we have too many programs. But we are going to accomplish this impossible task first. That is actually impossible. There's no way that we can possibly get to it at all. But once we get done with that, then we're going to get to downsizing the federal government after that.
Trust me, bro.
Trust me. Like, we don't know for sure these programs are bad. We don't really know for sure that that we're wasting a bunch of money, except for that some of these immigrants are getting on it. So we think once we get rid of them, we're going to be able to spend your money wisely. We think. Well, let's accomplish this impossible task first, and then we'll talk about it afterwards. After we get a few years of data after that, that's the frustrating part, because you could fix a lot of the problem by getting rid of the bloat to federal government to begin with, the welfare programs, all of this stuff. So anyway, I think that was a good discussion. Pretty good. Let's go.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you guys enjoyed the discussion, then share it around. Leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Go to godhatesfeds.com, pick up some merchandise, and click a button that says Join GML right there on the website, where you can be part of the Fed Haters Club. JoinGML.com. Visit the links in the show notes to support the sponsors that support the show. If you do all of that, and I mean all of it, then we'll be back again tomorrow.
Dumb bleep.
Tomorrow's Friday. It is Dumb Bleep of the Week. Mm-hmm. My God.
We should have done some of them today, probably.
End of January.
Crap. Yeah. It means we get to do Dumb Bleep of the Month next week.
Dumb Bleep of the Month next week. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Look at all these goodies.
So many dumbs.
So many dumbs. Not enough time.
Not enough time.
To cover all the dumbs. We still haven't gotten to Trump's Second Amendment comments or...
That's tomorrow.
We're
going to get to Cash and Trump and Noam and all that for a very special Minnesota Dumb Bleep tomorrow.
Yep. All right, y'all. Do all those things. We'll be back again tomorrow, Dumb Bleep. Until then, I hope you have a good day and a good morning, Liberty.